Welcome to episode 21 of Driver Suit Blog Radio. As always, I'm your host, David G. Firestone. So last week I had too many things going on. What with the Memorial Day trifecta, we had a friend of the family come visit. I had to do some production for my other YouTube channel, DGF 2099 Productions. So I simply ran out of time to record the podcast. I've also had some time to reflect, and I'm going to talk about a few things this episode. There are some caveats. First off, I'm not going to discuss certain current events, which I think we all know what I'm talking about, because I don't think this is the place for it. This is not a social or political podcast, it's a racing one, and that's all I'm going to say. Second off, continuing a discussion we had a while ago, I'd like to go back to the Peacock financial situation because some new numbers came out recently. Now, according to the Hollywood Reporter, Peacock's 2022 first quarter financials came out, and according to international business editor George Cesali, I hope I pronounced that right. I apologize if I didn't. This is a direct quote from the article, by the way. Peacock added 4 million paid subscribers in their first quarter to end it with 13 million paid subs and 28 million monthly active accounts in the U.S., up from 24.5 million as of the end of 2021. NBCU's media unit results included 472 million of revenue and adjusted earnings before EBITDA and an amortization loss, which is EBITDA of 456 million. So they made a little money, but not much. Another quote, including amounts attributable to the 2022 Beijing Olympics and the NFL Super Bowl compared to 91 million of revenue, and an adjusted EBITDA loss of 277 million for the prior year period. Another quote reads, executives of the media, entertainment, and technology conglomerate reaffirmed a full year 2022 EBITDA loss of around 2.5 billion, with higher losses in the second half of the year due to such things as the timing of content losses. And management had previously said it would step up spending on Peacock due to the upside in paid subscribers. End quote. I still think Comcast made a terrible decision to cancel NBCSN in favor of Peacock. I still think that the spending of $3 billion with a guaranteed loss of $2.5 billion is a dumb way to approach this. I think it's a dumb way to run a company. I don't see it working out long term, and it makes no sense. These are losses that could easily destroy most companies. And I think that many of the racing bodies which have deals with NBC are going to be leaving in favor of other platforms, and other sports will do the same. This just isn't going to work, and I think the sports division of NBC is one of the most vulnerable sections, and I don't see this working out long term. Now, last week, I'm going to move on to something I discussed last week. I talked about the logic of playing a video game on easy mode as opposed to hard mode. I made it clear that I thought that easy mode is a better game mode, and the only people who think otherwise are quote-unquote hardcore gamers who have been led to believe that if you don't beat a game on hard mode, regardless of what it is, and earn all of the achievements and get a high ranking on multiplayer games, you don't deserve to play games. But what I failed to address, and what I'm going to talk about this week, is that this is a symptom of a larger problem. This is an issue that has been regarding fan bases for quite a while. For years, the most devoted and committed fans were seen as the top of the fan bases. And look, I'm not saying that devoted fan bases aren't a bad thing. My other channel, my DGF 2099 Productions, has a good fan base. But having a loyal fan base is a good thing, but what fan bases don't realize is putting the most devoted fans at the top of the mountain will almost always backfire. Why? Well, in the words of wrestling podcaster Brian Last, Every fan base has their crazies, and every fan base has their obsessives. What many people can't see is that the most obsessive fan bases are the worst people to put at the top, because these people consider their fandom to be the most important thing in their lives, and everything else is just an annoyance as a comparison. A balance in life is needed. I mean, I love auto racing. Anyone who knows me knows I love auto racing, but it's not the most important thing in my life, and I have a lot of other things that I do, and no one thing is dominant. The people who are at the top of these fan bases have nothing else going on in their lives except whatever they're obsessed with. It's amazing how people just don't see that this is not really a passion so much as it is a psychotic obsession. But what makes it even worse is when the IP that the fans are obsessed with begins putting the most obsessed people in charge of the fandom. Two of the worst offenders when it comes to sports are baseball and pro wrestling. When it comes to baseball, amateur stat researchers and purists have been some of their biggest fans for years, and I'll get to purists in a bit. It's gotten to the point that when there were rule changes proposed to MLB rules, the stat geeks will do everything they can to keep the rules the same, irregardless of how great the changes could be to what they love. Now, pro wrestling is actually much, much worse. I mean, I like to watch wrestling, but given how obsessed with everything wrestling fans are, it's impossible for me to call myself a fan. I'm willing to wager money that there is a discussion that is either has or have taken place where it's John Cena's win record versus what color shirt he wears to the ring. Wrestling fans will dissect anything to an atomic level, and will fanatically argue everything as they see it. Now, one of the worst offenders here are AEW fans, and because many of them hate WWE. If you say anything bad about AEW, even if it's a piece of constructive criticism, they will attack you. People get torn to shreds on Twitter for pointing out if there's a wrestler if a wrestler could make a slight change to something and you point that out on Twitter, the AEW fans will attack you. Like, as of the writing of this, Jeff Hardy has been in AEW for a while, and it's clear that the Swanton bomb that he did with real ropes in WWE isn't working on the cables that AEW uses. But pointing that out makes you a bad guy for some reason. It's like if I made you a pasta sauce and I said, okay, try this and tell me what you think. And you say, it could use a little more basil. And it would be perfect. That would be like me calling you an idiot and a moron and you don't know anything about pasta and you don't deserve to eat pasta sauce because you make a piece of valid criticism. And this is why for a lot of these pop culture fandoms, they're losing fans because they don't like being told that if they're not obsessed with their fandom, they don't deserve to be a fan. This is going to cost them in the long run because you're not going to have as many fans, you're not going to make as much money, no more merch sale, less merch sales, less everything. And now, I mentioned purists a little while ago, and these are actually much worse for your chosen fandom because purists will vehemently oppose any and all changes to what they love. They can't accept any kind of change, again, regardless of how beneficial it is in the long run. I guarantee you go to Brooklyn, New York right now, you can find nursing homes or retirement homes full of people who still cannot accept the fact that the Dodgers left Brooklyn for Los Angeles in 1958. Now, this completely ignores that the change was needed for the team. It was needed for New York, which it was already oversaturated as a baseball market to begin with. It was beneficial for the West Coast, and it was beneficial for Major League Baseball. Everyone benefited from this except the fans in Brooklyn, and the fans of Brooklyn still to this day cannot get over it. The worst thing you can do as a purist is the worst thing you can do for your fan base is be a purist, because change waits for nobody. I mean, I watched the 30 for 30 episode on New Yankee Stadium recently because I needed something to do. And I had to sit through a part where one of these fans was talking about the new food offerings. It's like, whoa, real fans don't want this. Real fans want hot dogs. Real fans want pretzels and peanuts and beer. Yeah, you keep thinking in the past. Because real fans, quote unquote, is a term for purists. And they can't handle the fact that baseball is entering the 21st century. And they can't handle the fact that change is going to come. And it's the same thing for boxing. There's a reason why MMA is better than boxing in this day and age. But the boxing purists just can't accept it, and they don't want change to mess up their boxing. I've had it with obsessed fans and purists. I want to be able to watch or do something for fun without obsessed fans dissecting everything on the molecular level. I really hate these people. I really wish they'd go away, and I hope they never come back. But I know they're not going to. Whew, okay, with that out of my system, I'm going to take a quick break, and then we're going to discuss one of the most mysterious, unsolved mysteries in all of racing. So I'm back, and we're going to talk about an unsolved mystery in racing. Well, I don't think it's unsolved. The solution is actually quite obvious if you look at it, but it's still not really been officially resolved. Now, I wasn't able to find one singular source that was able to come up with a full-on perfect timeline. So I've gathered this information from a bunch of different websites which had different pieces of information that others didn't include. So I've gotten a cohesive timeline from that. So it's not strange because of any outer worldly happening, but the outcome is so obvious that nobody, including law enforcement, ever figured out what happened. What am I talking about? The infamous Dodge Boys break-in of 1995. But to get there, we have to go back. Our story starts in 1992 with Darrell Alderman. Alderman experienced much success during the 1991 Pro Stock season, and he won 11 events in his Dodge Daytona Pro Stock and led the NHRA championship points from wire to wire, never trailing anybody between February and October. After the 91 season, Alderman's life took a massive downhill slide. He was arrested, charged, and pled guilty to federal cocaine charges, and was banned from competition from 1992 and 1993. After his prison sentence was served, he returned in 1994 and found very quick success with the Fairfield, Illinois-based Wayne County Speed Shop. Side note, I'm from Illinois, and I've not heard of either Wayne County or Fairfield, and in my research I found they're closer to Indianapolis than Chicago. So Alderman came back with a bang. He won the 1994 title over his second-place teammate Scott Jeffrion. Now, in May of '95, the Wayne County Speed Shop experienced a quote-unquote mysterious break-in. Using a chainsaw, vandals cut a hole in either the back door or one of the walls of the shop and destroyed all 7 of the team's Pro Stock engines. This was 12 hours before the team was to leave for Englishtown. Team member Jim Musgrave discovered the destruction on May 17th. Nothing else was damaged or destroyed, and that a sledgehammer had been used to destroy the engines. In Musgrave's own words, they busted water jackets, oil galleries, busted the distributors, intake manifolds, and oil pans, and they beat the deck in of one of our new $6,000 blocks. Now, at the time, Pro Stock rules mandated that the cars and engines have to be built in the same shop. This effectively shut the team down, and the situation was made much worse because the team was to compete in the Mopar Parts Nationals and the DuPont Challenge this weekend. Now, one account states that graffiti spray painted on the walls said, "See you in E-Town," with an Oldsmobile symbol, and underneath that it read, "Winners GM reigns." Police found a can of spray paint in the shop that was either left by the vandal or the vandals. Now, this might sound like a bad episode of a bad cop show, but the truth was even more dumb. Now, this took place in what's known as the nitrous era of Pro Stock. Basically, teams, knowing that nitrous was illegal, ran it as a fuel booster anyway, hiding their setups very elaborately. It wasn't until Rusty Glidden blew the story wide open that the NHRA was forced to act. This meant more frequent inspections and harsher penalties. Now, while Wayne County was one of the most egregious offenders, they weren't the only one. Pretty much every team was involved in this in one way or the other. They knew if they got caught, they were screwed royally, so they staged the version. And if you think about this logically, nothing else was stolen, which was odd in and of itself, since there were tools, machinery, and decent amounts of money in the shop. Also, whoever broke in had enough knowledge of the security system to figure out that the only way not to trigger it was to cut a hole in the side of the wall. Jerry Ekman summed up the situation perfectly. Quote, "But they had a hole chopped in the side of their building with some real quiet chainsaw or a bulldozer or something really quiet like that, and went in there and damaged all the engines, but not the trailer, not the cars, not the transmission, not the machinery. Isn't that strange?" Yes, it is. Ekman would actually have this quote rendered a few years later. So in 1997, during the Pontiac Excitement Nationals at National Trail Raceway, Wayne County was looking back into the Pro Stock ranks to during the 33rd Pontiac Excitement Nationals at National Trail Raceway, the Wayne County Speed Shop was looking to come back from their woes. Ekman was put behind the wheel with his crew chief, Bill Orndorff. It looked as though everything might be coming back for the Dodge Boys, and then it happened. A small explosion occurred in the Pro Stock area, specifically next to the Wayne County Speed Shop pit. The explosion was quickly traced to a nitrous oxide bottle found freezing to the touch and spraying gas around. The team locked the car in the truck, and then all the team disappeared. The PA system would frequently ask for anybody of Ekman's crew to report to the NHRA control tower. Now, according to the NHRA themselves, NHRA tech placed a guard on the trailer overnight. Orndorff returned during the night and was unsuccessful in persuading the guard to release the car and trailer. On Saturday morning, when Orndorff returned again, Tech took the car and the trailer to a teardown facility near the raceway office. Tech performed its investigation and inspection and released the car and trailer to Orndorff late Saturday morning. End quote. The NHRA had given Orndorff a chance that Saturday morning. Take the rig to the teardown barn without opening its doors or going inside, or drive off and never come back. Graham Light, the NHRA senior vice president, explains they were suspicious of some of the plumbing in the car. They did some traces, sent the samples to the lab, and it came back there were traces of nitrous oxide in the fuel. The team left and was never heard from again. This was the end of the Dodge Boys and Jerry Ekman. Now, with all of this, does it really sound like there was anything except a case of destruction of evidence? I mean, look, the facts here are simple. And since the obvious has been stated, why not just come out and say it? This was in 1995. It's 2022. The statute of limitations has long since expired. Just come out and tell the truth. You know the truth. I know the truth. Everyone listening to this knows the truth. Everyone involved knows the truth. Just come out and tell me the truth. You're not going to get in any trouble. But yeah, that was the story of the mysterious Dodge Boys break-in. And again, going back to the nitrous thing, Dodge Boys were the most egregious offenders. Nobody's arguing that. But they were not, by any stretch of the imagination, the only one. Pretty much every pro stock team was figuring out ways to hide nitrous bottles in various parts of the car that they knew the NHRA wouldn't look into. And again, Rusty Glidden was so sick of it and so sick of the cheating and everything that he just came out and said, look, everyone's doing this. Everyone's lying. Everyone's involved. And it turned out that was actually the truth. Everyone was. So the NHRA had to act. But this whole thing was to keep the Dodge Boys from getting in serious trouble. Depending on who you listen to, the NHRA may or may not have tipped them off. But in the end, it is what it is. Well, that about does it for this week's episode of Driver Soup Blog Radio. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to be doing for next week. But you'll have a good time. So I'm Dave Farson. Leave a like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you for the next episode of Driver Soup Blog Radio.